Hi guys, hi Susie and Marguerite, Cheryl, Linda, Dorothy. Can you guys hear me okay? You might have seen a second ago, I had a little bit of a camera trouble. So I shifted my setup a little bit and I am not totally sure that it's gonna work because it's different from what I practiced, but we will make it happen. I'm just gonna wait one more minute and let you guys kind of trickle in. Looks like you can hear me, that's great news. I'm hopeful that I'm not gonna get too many shadows here with the little change I just made. But we'll make it work, right? So for the early birds, I thought I would start with something that certainly is not specific to mouths and really is actually less applicable to mouths than a lot of other features, but that is part of my photo preparation. And what I do when I select a photo, and I am flying by the seat of my pants, I still haven't decided whose mouth I'm gonna draw. You guys can weigh in on that if you want to. But I like to edit my photo before I start drawing. So you see Daddy DeVito here has beautiful lips. That's a really classic, full, gorgeous pout. I was thinking about doing that. These lips, I think, are beautiful and interesting. There's a lot of color happening there. That was another option. And then I didn't know if we should go big or go home and do some teeth and unusual lighting. Can I raise the sketchbook? I can try. And go with Ella's lips here. Do you guys have any preference in terms of whose lips we should try? Do we want to do teeth? It looks like teeth might be the way to go. We can all watch it go horribly awry together. Let's do it. Let's be bold. So this is Ella. I'm going to save this to my camera roll, and I'm not trying to waste time here, but I want to show you something that works really well for me personally, especially as I was just getting started doing portraits, and that is editing my photo before I start drawing. So I'm going to, I usually do this on my phone, not on my iPad, so I'm a little confused as to how this is going here. So bear with me. I'm just cropping it a little bit tighter, and then I am going to go in, and the two things I mostly like to play with when I'm starting a portrait are color and light. Now, her lips probably actually aren't going to change all that much. I mean, if I go super heavy, they obviously will. But you'll notice if you watch the rest of her face, when I play with the saturation there, it's making a really big difference. Contrast. You can pull it less contrast or more. And I'm doing this to help me pull out shadows and highlights to help me see different colors. And it kind of does some of the work for me. I'm actually going to warm that up a little bit. If I play with the photo ahead of time, and I'm going to play with the light a little bit too, it helps make the image more or less bold and gives me a little more to work from without having to pull so much from my imagination. I'm just looking at these lips and thinking that that was a really daring move to choose this particular mouth, and we are just gonna see how this goes and hope for the best. Let's see. Okay, so I don't know if you could tell how much I played up the colors and the light here, but it gave us, it just gave us a little something extra to work with. So when I'm drawing lips or a mouth, and by choosing this open mouth, I'm kind of messing with my lesson a little bit, because what I'm typically first going to do is get in on the center line there. Now usually when the lips meet, that is a really easy place to kind of figure out where things are. But since I decided to be brave here, I don't have that luxury, but that's okay. We're gonna figure it out. Oh, it looks like the picture is backwards. Okay. Does that matter to you guys? Because it's just gonna mean I need to flip my phone around. Forgive me, this is the first time I've done it. So let me know, I'm just waiting for comments to come through if it matters. But it looks like you guys care. But I'm not sure how to fix that. So we're just gonna leave it. You can pretend I'm a lefty, which I am very much not. I decided to work with colored pencil today, and I did that in part because I like it, and in part because I think there's a lot to talk about in terms of color, especially when you're looking at mouths. People think that mouths are pink and red, and that is obviously true within reason, but there is so much more going on than just pink and red. Now I chose a really bright orangey red to start with here, but it really doesn't matter for me, the way that I work with colored pencil, what color I'm starting with, because I'm going to be layering so many colors and doing it really lightly. I'm actually going a little heavier than I would ordinarily so that hopefully you guys can see it better. Ooh, I'm nervous, can you tell? I know you can because I'm shaking, especially because I decided to do this kind of crazy mouth, but we will figure it out together. The worst thing that happens is that I wish this drawing didn't see the light of day, and you know, that's no tragedy. So you'll remember from the tips that I sent out this morning, or that were sent out this morning, that I talked about these kind of areas of fat that are distributed in the lips, and I called them pads, which I don't know, feels like kind of a gross descriptor, but I'm not sure how else to do it. But you will see, less so in this open mouth than maybe if she had her mouth closed, but there are these distinct areas of fat here, and definitely more in the bottom lip than the top lip. And one of the first things I do when I'm drawing, you guys, I'm super nervous. I didn't expect that, is to go in and lightly define those areas where that fat is distributed. And that's gonna give me the general shape to the lip. And it also, right off the bat, starts building volume. And drawing, at least for me, is all about light and volume. Thank you for your supportive words. I wouldn't think I was doing nervous, and I was feeling nervous and I wouldn't say it, except my hands are shaking, and I feel like a video of my hands does not hide that shake very well. Okay, so You guys can't see my colored pencil selection at all, and I'm sorry for that. That's just the setup of the video. But I have just any and all colors. You can see that I take care of them super well. They're all really clean. They're all really well organized. Sarcasm, obviously. None of that matters to me because when I work in colored pencil, I'm just bouncing back and forth with different colors. And I don't even really pay attention to what colors I'm grabbing some of the time. What I'm trying to do as I work with colored pencils is to push and pull warm tones and cool tones. I'm looking for underlying colors and just laying down color. And once I lay down one color, so I'm going in with this violet, because I am seeing a lot of purple tones in here. Once I lay down one color, it will probably, definitely, go too far in one direction, and I will then naturally grab maybe a kind of competing color and go in and knock this purple back. So I might wind up reaching for an orange next. I might find I want more blue or more pink, but it's just a constant back and forth with different colors. Favorite brand. I use Faber-Castell Polychromos. I don't know if you can see that. And I don't even know if I'm saying that right. It's one of those things where you never say it aloud, and then when you do, you realize you don't know if you know what you're talking about. And I use them, I mean, I guess they're my favorite because they are what I have most of, but it's not because I've done a lot of trial and error, to be honest. It's because it's what I first bought, and it's just how my collection has grown. So whatever you have on hand is great. Use it. I think the more important thing is to have variety in your colored pencils, whether that's brand or just colored. You just want to have as much as you can to work with, and you can obviously build that over time too. So I'm not sure why I started with this shadow here. It's just kind of how it happened. I'm gonna go ahead and go in with this cobalt turquoise and really get some depth in there. There are absolutely blue shades in that part of the mouth, but that's not even really what I'm going for right now. I'm going for shadow more than an accurate color at this moment. And I can work on pulling out what colors I want once I kind of establish that depth. So one of the things that I really wanted to drive home, and I think France did a really great job of driving this same point home. When I was first asked to do this, there was part of me that was a little hesitant, in part because I am someone who is constantly doubting myself, but that is not what I wanted to talk about. I was hesitant because I think that there is a tendency to think this is how you draw eyes, this is how you draw noses, this is how you draw mouths, when I don't think that exists. There's obviously certain tips and tricks that can make something easier or harder, but a mouth is not a mouth is not a mouth, as I am learning right now as I chose this kind of crazy mouth here. And And I hesitated to say this is how you draw mouths because I don't think that works, and I definitely don't think that's how you grow as an artist. I think the most important thing in drawing, if you're doing kind of representational drawing, is seeing, is really looking at what it is you're drawing and drawing that. So I am not thinking about what a mouth looks like right now. Right now I'm thinking about the shadow that's falling right here. I'm thinking about how there's a really hot tone in this part of the mouth. I'm thinking about the volume in this bottom lip and how I can accomplish that. But I'm not looking at drawing a mouth. So like France kept saying when she was tackling Ted's nose, treat it as something you've never seen before, as some inanimate object. And go at it like that. And I think that you will find that you get a much closer approximation to what you really want. Now I'm kind of breaking my own rules here, probably due to nerves more than anything, by getting in there with all that pink. I usually don't lay down what is perceived to be the main color first. I think the best way to get depth when you're working with color is by throwing everything at it and just layering and layering and layering. And a lot of times that'll mean starting with a color that is not particularly prevalent in the inspiration. So I'm kind of kicking myself here for not doing a better job of showing you that. Because I think it is what makes my approach to color, I don't know, maybe not different or certainly not better, but mine. All right, looks like you guys are hanging in there maybe. I hope this time was okay for everyone. I am a stay-at-home mom, and so evenings are crazy at my house. But I get a little time where the kids are both at school some days. And that is what I'm taking advantage of here. So I need to focus on finding some other colors in here because I'm really stuck with pinks and reds and a little orange, and there's so much more going on here. So let's look over here. There's a real orange cast over here. And if I go in and start hitting that, not only am I gonna get that cast, but that's also going to let us talk about another one of my tips, which was that the mouth doesn't stop at the mouth. All the spaces around the mouth really help determine not just how your mouth looks, but the expression that it's giving. Because the muscles around the mouth will alter, obviously, how the mouth looks. And if you're kind of addressing those muscles and shadows around the mouth, it's going to change. What if I get a scandalous message on my iPad while I'm doing this? I should have turned up messaging. That would be a thrill, wouldn't it? I don't know about you guys, but I always listen to something while I'm working. But for this, that's obviously not something I can really do. It's very strange to be sitting in a quiet room, talking to myself and drawing. But we do what we gotta do. You'll also notice that I don't necessarily use super sharp pencils because I'm so lightly layering color that to have a sharp pencil doesn't even really matter, except when I'm going in, usually more towards the end, and trying to get some definition. One place I'm not going to try and get a lot of definition, just because it is my personal style, is in the lines of the mouth. You see Ella's got tons of lines there, but I don't personally love doing a clear representation of lines or wrinkles. I love some people's line work. Craig's line work in his hair is beautiful. France, of course, with her hatching. Line work can be gorgeous. It's just not what I personally like to do. So I kind of try to represent those lines just with more subtle shading and highlights rather than really going in there and doing lines. Lines are kind of my personal nemesis. Carla, you're asking if I'm hatching. I really kind of am not. Well, I don't know. Is it hatching? I kind of scribble, which I'm not sure is something they teach you in art school. Never having been to art school, I can't say. But I do kind of a combination of hatching and just soft coloring. I do little swirly kind of marks. I really, in this instance, I'm laying down the color heavier than I would ordinarily, just to make sure you guys see it. But because I'm layering the color so much and laying it down so lightly, I think the shape of the lines actually isn't all that important for what I'm doing. So I'm not sure I've actually nailed the shape of her mouth here, but that's okay, and it's okay for a few reasons. One being that, unlike Benjamin, who is an exceptionally talented and precise and studied artist, whose technique I really admire, I don't go for precision. I am not someone who erases. I have an eraser, but you probably won't see me pick it up. And that is not because I don't make mistakes, because as I just said, I'm pretty sure that the shape of the mouth here is actually not quite right. So I have made a mistake already, one of many. Oops. But because my personal goal in the work that I'm doing is not to duplicate a photo. What I'm trying to do is to create something that really shows my hand. I really want to show that I was there. And for me, erasing kind of takes a lot of that away, because my mistakes, Lord knows, in life and art, are kind of what make my stuff mine. So I either embrace the mistakes and accept that it maybe doesn't look exactly like the picture, or I ideally just push through them until I get something closer to what my intention was. So that's not to say that if your eraser is your favorite tool that you are doing it wrong, because, my God, whatever works for you, I think is what you should be doing. It's just to say that you are in control of how faithfully you want to execute a drawing or not. It's okay to finish your drawing, feel really good about it, because that happens sometimes, even if we don't admit it publicly, and then upload it to Sktchy, see that comparison, and see that the drawing that you felt great about doesn't actually look that much like the photo. And I know that that is a bummer feeling. It's a bummer when it happens to me. But if you felt really good about the drawing, then it doesn't really matter if it's matching that photo, right? It's a muse. It's not a paying customer. And even if it is a paying customer, they chose you because they like what your work looks like. So you don't necessarily have to make them change what you're doing, because they chose you because they like what you do. So try and like what you do too. Let's see, sorry, I'm just trying to read a little bit. A brief close-up view. I can try that. We will see if that messes up the whole view altogether. There's a little lag between what I'm seeing on my screen and what I'm actually doing, so I won't know for a second if we've gone off the screen here. What palette am I using? I am using this palette. I have pulled out all my colored pencils, and I am just looking for different tones within the lip, and then going in and trying to attack that area with that tone, regularly going a little too red or a little too purple, a little too orange or pink. And then my plan, as it always is with my colored pencils, is to just go back and knock it back. So if it gets a little too pink, you add a little orange. If it gets a little too orange, I might add a little green even. It's just a constant push and pull between warm and cool, different tones. So I think, not because I've even gotten close to nailing this bottom lip, but just so that we can keep a better eye on what we're doing overall, we should probably come in and get this shadow a little bit. Not only did we choose a really difficult positioning of the mouth here, but this lighting is wacky. It's really dramatic. And it's doing things like throwing a highlight on the inside corner of the mouth, which is not something you're going to see a lot. But that, I guess, serves to illustrate that you should be drawing what you're actually seeing instead of what you think a mouth looks like. Because I will tell you, typically, the inside corner of a mouth falls in shadow, not in light. So we are definitely throwing the rule book out here. Oh, Nixie, she's here and she is, she's popping her gum. Girl. I don't know about you guys, but in my little fantasy, I get to sit and have a beer with so many of you sketchy people. I would love nothing more than to head to, I think it's Portland, and sit with Nixie. What's your, oh, you are Nixie here, okay, good. Sit with Nixie and just shoot the shit, for lack of a better phrase. Or Rico, my favorite angry, bitter man on Sktchy, or Paul Coogan, or Lauren Ball, all these people, Benjamin in France, all these people who I've gotten to know over the years, which is crazy to say over the years, but it really has been. So, okay, I'm not super confident in how this is going, which is okay, but you'll see as I'm starting to layer more colors, we're starting to get a little depth, to get something a little more interesting. Hopefully the camera is picking it up. You can't see the iPad. Okay. Let's see. And because the camera is backwards, I can't even totally tell if I'm doing this right. I'll see in a second if it worked. Another thing I'll say about color, especially when you're using non-traditional colors to kind of get a, there, that looks better, to get a kind of somewhat realistic portrait. I mean, I'm not going for hyper-realism here, but a way to get a more cohesive color story in your portrait is to, once you're using a color in one area, take a look at your picture, at your inspiration, and see where else you can pull that color. And try and pull it all around the mouth, or whatever it is you're working on. Marguerite, do I ever get so much medium down on my paper that it won't take anymore? I haven't. And that might be because I work so lightly, so that even though I'm layering and layering and layering and I'm just in there back and forth, and I mean, someone asked me the other day how many pictures I had used, or how many colors I had used in a drawing, and I had no idea. I mean, it could be 20 quite easily. But I'm going so lightly that it, I have not had the experience of the paper just giving up on me. I imagine if I pressed harder, that would probably happen. And have I said, what paper? Super smooth, Leslie. It's a moleskin, which is what I almost always work in. Virtually all of my Sktchy drawings, unless they're digital, which I haven't really been doing lately, are going to be in moleskin. Sorry for the click-clack of the pencils. So this is kind of interesting, just talking about color. This is earth green. It's a funny, real gray green, and it is, oddly, one of my go-to colors for skin tone. I find that it layers really well with orange. The orange, you know, we do have, a lot of us have kind of naturally orange tones to our skin, but we don't want to look like a certain president, maybe. We don't want our drawings to either. This green is a really good way to neutralize that orange without eliminating it. I use this green strangely a lot. And that's the kind of thing that I only know because I am not afraid of throwing anything down on the paper. I am all about just going in and trying it. Like I said, I think I said in the beginning, there are times that I'm not even really looking at what color I'm picking up in the moment. I just know I need to add a color. Because for me, in my colored pencil work, the depth of color is more important than the accuracy of the color. And the only way I personally know how to get depth is by putting a lot on it. I don't know what someone's laughing. Oh, probably our Susie, are you laughing about our president? Are you American or not? Slightly less funny if you're American, I think. Oh, Lord. I am in Houston, Texas, by the way, if anyone cares. We actually do have spring here, which I know a lot of you guys do not. I'm from Wisconsin originally, and I know that they are covered in snow still, which is just crazy. West Coast, all right. So, like I said, I'm not drawing the lines per se. I'm giving a suggestion of those lines, and I'm doing that by adding color and shadow around where those wrinkles are. It seems funny to call them wrinkles on Ella's mouth. Has ever called me, because who talks on the phone anymore, but of course I get a phone call during this. So I think I'm doing a lousy job about talking about finding the pull and push in warm and cool colors here. But hopefully you can kind of see me doing that. Oh, Magnolia. Oh, Green Bay. Snowing in New Hampshire. Oh, you poor people. I love snow. I miss it, but that is because I do not have to shovel it or scrape it off my car in the morning. As I left my house this morning to get my kids to school, I was smelling my neighbor's gardenias that she planted, and they were beautiful. So a slightly different experience than you've got in, say, Green Bay or New Hampshire or Minnesota. Although, Pamela, it looks like you've got a good attitude. Oh, not Pamela. Kathy, you've got a good attitude about your extended winter. Okay, so let's talk about teeth. I'm not going to pretend that teeth are my favorite thing in the world, but we all have them, ideally, at least for part of our lives. And so there will come an opportunity to draw them, especially if you're drawing kids, because let's be honest, particularly when you're looking at commissions and things like that, people want pictures of their kids, and they want their kids to look happy, and happy kids, for better or worse, have teeth. Unfortunately, they also have hair, but thankfully you had Craig to walk you through that. So when I decide to be brave and tackle a portrait that actually acknowledges the existence of teeth, you'll see that what I'm really doing is not drawing the teeth. I haven't drawn a tooth at all here so far. What I'm doing is drawing the space around the teeth. And I'm paying really close attention to the shadows around the teeth too. I'm not going in with a really dark color and just going, okay, well, around inside of mouth is dark, so I am going to add black, and that will show that we're inside a mouth. I wouldn't ever do that for the style of work that I do. Now that's not to say that for some people who have that really stark style that doesn't work really well. But I can't speak to that because it's just not what I do. So I'm noticing that in here, there's a really dark shadow. Here is a little darker, but here is a lot lighter. She's got a tongue in there. Maybe we're seeing a little bit of her bottom teeth there. I don't even really know what we're looking at, but it doesn't matter because I'm not trying to draw a tongue and I'm not trying to draw bottom teeth. I'm just trying to draw what I see. So I'm starting by going around. And I'm using the same general tones that I'm using in the rest of it. I think it makes it more cohesive. And also that's honestly just what I see when I look at the picture. I don't know if I have a black colored pencil. It's possible I do, but that's how rarely I use black. I think you get so little, some have hair on their teeth. What? What was I saying about black? You get so little depth. If you say shadows are black, I'm gonna go in there with black. What I'm looking for in my color work, more than anything really, is depth. And I just don't think you get any depth if you make dark spaces black. So I don't use it. As a matter of fact, I like to, in my dark spaces, and there's really not a lot of black in here, which is kind of a bummer because I was hoping to show you how I handle really dark spaces. So I'm just gonna take this tiny little divot here and kind of do a quick demonstration. I hope you guys don't mind that this is turning into more of a color demonstration as much as a mouth demonstration. Like I say, I hesitate because I don't think there is a way to draw mouths or ears or hair that you just follow. So that's not what I'm doing. I'm just drawing these shapes I've got, but color is easy to talk about. So I went in with a really bright red there and I actually pushed hard, which is something I rarely do, but that shadow's not red. So I'm gonna go back and hit it with this kind of deeper turquoise. And now there's definitely some real contrast there. I might find that I still want a little more contrast. It's hard to see with that tiny little space there. But I like to use this cobalt green when I'm looking for really dark darks. But not on its own, because it's not a green dark. It's just one of the ways you can get depth. Black doesn't really exist in nature. Well, there you go, and you learned that from someone who teaches people for their job. So apparently, I am not making it up. There's part of me that feels like doing this, I should pretend that I have some sort of training or something, because you guys paid good money for this course and I know you want to learn from people who know what they're doing. But I hope that if I tell you that I am someone who didn't draw for almost 20 years between high school and when I discovered Sktchy 3 years ago, and that I have not taken any courses since then. I honestly have not done a ton of research in those 3 years. What I've really done is made time every single day to draw. Hopefully that doesn't make you feel like you've been given a bum deal. Hopefully it makes you feel like you have the potential to grow as an artist, just in your own hands and your own brain and your own eyes, because that's what I have used. And look at me now. Hopefully you can get that I'm being self-deprecating. So another thing I want you to notice about these teeth is that I am not drawing the shape of teeth. Her teeth probably aren't actually the shape, if you really look at them when she's got a big open smile, aren't the shape of what they're looking here. But I'm not drawing teeth. I'm drawing these kind of white blob, well, not white. I'm drawing these blobs full of tones and shadows that will eventually reveal themselves to look tooth-like. And I think we're doing better than I feared I was going to when I came to terms with the fact that we chose this crazy picture. Do you guys ever start drawing a picture and realize halfway through it that there's like a hand in it, or like some crazy hair that you hadn't counted on? Is that just me? I think that's where Benjamin's approach to actually paying attention to what you're doing in advance of just starting probably works in his favor. He probably doesn't suddenly realize that he has to draw a white beard because he noticed it in advance. But I have that happen all the time, where I just didn't realize what I was getting myself into. So why should today be any different? I am going to pick this up again and just show you kind of where we've gotten, and then I'm sure I am going to have to shift where the iPad is and everything again in a minute. Oh, looks like that didn't totally reflect it. Can you guys see that? We're starting to get some depth in there. So if the iPad or the drawing's out of the frame, I promise I'll fix it in a minute when I can see that on my edge, or my end. So let's see. What areas do I really want to pull here? I feel like one of the things that first drew me to this inspiration picture, yeah, we're still in there, was that there's some really hot colors here. It's really hot here. It's like a really nice fuchsia and this really kind of cool purpley color. There's a lot of variety in the colors of this mouth, which I personally really love to play with. I don't know if I've ever drawn a lipstick, an obvious lipsticked mouth. And it's not because I don't like makeup, because I sure do. But I just think it's so much less fun to draw flat colors, which lipstick kind of gives the illusion of, right? So I don't know that I have made full use of all the great tones that she's got in her lips. Oh, and time flies. Holy cow, they weren't kidding. Maybe I should move on from color a little bit and just let you guys see what I wind up with when I wind up with it, and move to the areas around the mouth, so that I can do a little more demonstrating instead of this same thing over and over. So I really think, as I said in my tips, and I think I said earlier today, that it is just as important to draw the spaces around the mouth as it is to draw the mouth itself. And that's not just things like this, you know, dramatic divot here or this corner here. That's also noticing that here, the lip clearly ends here, but the color still kind of fades up and in. This color, there's a little highlight here, but the color is really bleeding over. And noticing those things will really make your drawing so much more cohesive, so that it's not just looking like you've got, when you're drawing a whole face, you don't just have lips plopped in the middle of the bottom quadrant of the face. But it also makes it look more realistic too, of course. And now, talking about, do I have any tips on getting the mouth at the right angle? Practice. Is that the wrong answer? I'm sure it is, because it's an answer you could come up with on your own. I mean, there are certainly, go on YouTube and look at mapping out features of the face, and there are absolutely tricks to do that. It's not my strong suit, and it's not my strong suit not because I couldn't do it if I tried, but because it's just not where my personal focus lies. I'm just not super concerned with focusing really hard on proportions and angles. I feel like if my style and my technique develop, then with practice, that other stuff will come too. So I don't know that that's the answer you would have liked from me, but that is my honest answer. One thing I will suggest, which not everyone has the luxury of, but if you do, the best way, I think, to practice getting things like proportions and angles is life drawing. If you have any opportunity to go to a figure drawing group, get over your nerves and do it. There is nothing short of Sktchy, which was what got me drawing at all again in the first place, that has advanced my skills more quickly or more fun than life drawing. It is a way to force yourself to see the bigger picture, especially if you have bad eyesight like I do, because I literally cannot see the details. So it does that. It gets you out of your head and in the moment, because you really only have, in my class, the longest, or my group, the longest pose we do is 12 minutes, which, considering I've just spent an hour on this mouth, and you can see it's not even close to done, means you're working at a totally different pace. And it gives you a chance to see what other people are making too, because you're not alone in that room. And peering at other people's notebooks, just like this does, really gives you new ideas in what is possible. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments real quick. I feel like I need to go in and make a real point of shading these teeth, even though that isn't necessarily where I actually want to go right now. Just to really drive home that teeth aren't white. You guys know that. I mean, you guys are all paying close enough attention to what you're doing. You wouldn't be here if you weren't, to know that just big white blocks in a mouth aren't going to get the job done. But I feel like I need to practice what I'm preaching here. And so I chose a blue because I really am seeing a lot of blue there. But then, because it's what I do, I will go back and hit it with some other colors too. And you can see already, or I hope you can, that tooth already looks more real than it did a minute ago when it was white. So I don't know, I feel like even though we chose this crazy mouth, and I think I only saw one person's response saying that, and I just jumped right into it, so I think I secretly wanted to do it. I maybe didn't have the time to get the depth of color that I would like, but you're not really here for color study anyway, so maybe it was good, because I think we have gotten the basic structure of the mouth here. I do really want to say again, I was super nervous in the beginning. I'm not sure how well I really drew attention to it. But I think the most important thing, just technically speaking, for me when I'm drawing a mouth is identifying those areas of fat in the mouth and really actually just going in there. I'm not holding the pencil above the paper there. I'm actually making marks and drawing ovals to get it in there. And then I can go back and work around those ovals to knock them back. But it adds right away so much volume. And lips are all about volume. Even really thin lips have volume. Oh, it looks like we're out of time. So I will zoom in really quick. Sorry about that. That went really fast. Hopefully you got some value out of that. I really appreciate everyone joining me. If you have any other questions, I will definitely go back in the feed and see what questions you've asked. No, that looks out of focus. And I'll also post a picture, maybe once I work a little more. And I'll answer any questions you ask. So if you want to ask some questions, you can tack them on at the end in the comments, and I will take time over the next day or whatever to answer those questions as best I can. And when I do finish this mouth, I will be sure to post it to the 5-day facial group and to Sktchy. And hopefully we did something here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It was fun and less scary as I kept going than it was in the beginning. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.